This event is made completely free and open to the public thanks to our incredible sponsors: United Airlines, NJEDA, JP Morgan Chase, LISC NJ, RWJ Foundation, Audible, Invest Newark, Rutgers University, and the Rutgers iHub Center. Their support helps build opportunities, community, and innovation right here in Newark. A special thank you to the Rutgers University Newark for sponsoring this beautiful venue, Ruth Bader Ginsburg Hall, and welcoming us to their campus. Now, to officially open tonight's program, please join me in welcoming Chancellor Dr. Tanya Smith-Jackson from Rutgers University, Newark.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Newark Tech Week. This is exciting, and I'm looking forward to all the connections that are going to be made. Let me take a moment and welcome you to our house, Rutgers University Newark, and literally our house and our building, and I live right upstairs, by the way, so here we are. So welcome to our house. Just wanted to take a minute, and I see that the theme is consciously connected, so I'm sure there's a lot behind the theme. Very thankful to all of the organizers. But as we talk about technology, I just wanted to highlight why being consciously connected is so important. You'll have all week to really engage in a marketplace of ideas. But it's up to you to think outside of the box. Technology is primarily the application of human knowledge to create things, the application of human knowledge to create things. And in order to create really, really innovative things, you're going to have to talk to other people who think differently from you. It's going to be important to have different minds at the table. When artificial intelligence was developed, it actually dates back to 1954, 55-ish. It started at Dartmouth, and a group of people, this seems very loud. A group of people came together to really talk about ways in which machines could be designed to think like humans. But in the room, it wasn't just computer science folks. They had anthropologists, one anthropologist. They had a linguist in the room as well. But I will say, there were only men in the room. There were no women. There were no people from other countries, etc. And so artificial intelligence stalled for decades until we could figure out how to get machine learning and then advanced machine learning and neural nets and all that stuff, start getting that together in order to move us along. And ultimately, we used a whole, large language databases, large language models, probabilities, and things really came to fruition about 12 or 13 years ago. But the whole point is that it took all kinds of people from multiple disciplines and ways of thinking to finally get something that was usable, to get us out of that dark place of not being innovative. So I encourage all of you, as you are going through the various opportunities this week, find people who are nowhere near your discipline or your expertise, who are so vastly different that you wouldn't have thought to talk to them. Because that's what real conscious connection is all about. You're being intentional in order to make sure you are partnering with people who think differently so that you can create brand new things. Now, the other side of this is we often think of technology as digital. Technology is more than just digital solutions, right? Technology can be concrete. A shoe is technology. It is the application of human knowledge, right, to something that humans can use. So as you're thinking about various technologies, think about the integration of those technologies. So if you're thinking about a digital platform of some sort, or using AI in some way, developing an app, etc., think about the context in which it will be operated, think about the people who are going to use it, and think about ways to integrate the technology with other technologies that would be in the same use space. And finally, I want to say everything in technology is about human-technology interaction. Here's where we fail, and here's where we waste money and time. We don't include the human interaction part of technology. It doesn't matter. It can be you're designing something on the back end where only an expert coder would ever use. It still has to be usable for that expert coder. So we have to be inclusive in our approach and think about who will be using those technologies. What we tend to do is that we will develop a technology and we develop it for the early adopters. That's a waste of money. Don't design only for the early adopters, because what happens is that the later adopters try to use the product fails for them. It can even fail in a way that makes the product unsafe. And so you lose money. And then what you have to do is go back and do something in engineering that we call retrofit. I'm an industrial and systems engineer. Retrofitting costs money. So on the front end, design for as many people as you can, as many use cases as you can, as many different types of people as you can. And surely your product will be much more successful and your profits will be greater. Now, of course, we don't want to just think about it as profit. Technology is about providing solutions to enhance the quality of life of the people we all serve. So no matter what your disciplinary area, again, I hope you think about the layers that influence whether a technology is going to be successful. And now you are in a great space today and this week to be able to talk to many different people in this room and start thinking differently. So welcome to Newark Tech Week, and welcome really to the marketplace of ideas. Enjoy consciously connecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. What a powerful way to start the evening. We're honored to have the support of organizations that champion innovation, equity, and growth in Newark. Tonight, you'll hear from a few of those incredible partners who continue to invest in our city's future. We'll hear brief remarks from some of the leaders that made NTW happen. First is City Medina, founder and CEO of Equal Space and re-founder of Newark Tech Week. City Medina is the visionary behind Equal Space, a shared space and incubator empowering multicultural founders and Newark's creative tech ecosystem, and co-architect of Newark Tech Week. Welcome to the stage, please, City Medina.
I'm going to keep it up. Good evening, everyone. Oh, come on, this is Newark. We can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. So as the amazing Dante introduced, for those who haven't met, my name is Medina. I am one of the proud founders of Newark Tech Week and the founder of Equal Space. I think what I want to share with everyone, and I want to keep it as brief as possible, is that Newark Tech Week, from its inception, was an answer to a call to bring us all together past the work. Every day I've seen innovators and technologists and founders work tirelessly to get their platforms and their startups up and off the ground, and not only succeed, but gain traction and gain visibility. And that has been something worthy of celebrating. It's worthy of celebrating because we understand that the industry is not always built in our favor. It's worth celebrating because the obstacles are clear and concise. But most importantly, it's worth celebrating because y'all is greatness, period. My team is humbled to do the work that we do half the year to bring this together. It's 24 events over 5 days across the entire city, entirely free for you all. And you're gonna hear from A1 speakers. Oh, thank y'all. You're going to hear from A1 speakers, specialists, those who are bringing capital to the game, and they're going to share their playbook because we understand that there is a wealth gap, but there's also a knowledge gap. Newark Tech Week fills that, and that's why I'm incredibly proud of our lead architect, Kelly Outing, who really coined, yeah, shout out to Kelly, y'all, that part. Because this is not my brain trust, it is the collective brain trust of an entire team. It is the visuals behind me by Mark. It is the amazing, amazing production here by Transform the Hustle. It is the ability to pull this off for free by our COO, Jonathan Collins. It is the work of Barry and Angie and DeRay tirelessly putting out all the content that you see. This is not me alone, this is an army of people, and it is a wonderful table of partners who believe in us and invest in us to make this possible. Dante's gonna tell the stories of our amazing, amazing sponsors because they're not just capital in the coffers, they're actually brain trust champions to help us move this along. As you heard from the amazing Chancellor, this is about being consciously connected. I don't have to emphasize where we are today in America. I have to say that collectively we will move forward. Because they can't stop us. And if anything, that is a testimony to the story of Newark. You can't stop this city. And so I ask that you really open up, connect with the person next to you, make sure you support our tech alley, look at the innovators around you, attend everything this week, say what's up to me. Also, caffeine is not a bribe, it is definitely necessary. As we do this week off. And again, I'm thankful to my sponsors. I'm thankful to everyone you're about to hear speak. And I'm thankful to do this work and my calling and this legacy work because y'all are why I do it. So have a great night.
Thank you, City, for leading the charge and showing what's possible when creativity meets community. Next, we have Joe Padone, CTO and Global Head of Production Management, JP Morgan Asset and Wealth Management. Joe oversees the firm's infrastructure, strategy, ensuring secure, scalable technology systems that drive innovation across JP Morgan's global platforms. He is here with us on the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm really excited. This is my first Newark Tech Week, so I'm excited to be here. I'm a technologist at heart. I've been doing it for over 35 years. Love technology, and I love being surrounded by technology. I feel the energy, and I'm glad to be here, part of you. JP Morgan's been supporting this event for 3 years now. We're going bigger and better than ever. We're doubling down on Newark. We think there's a lot of talent. We want to support that here. JP Morgan Chase has been very involved. We have deep roots in New Jersey. We've been doing business in this state for over 190 years. Yeah, where's my Chase people at? 190 years. We bank about 3 million Chase customers. We have over 274,000 small businesses that we support. We have 12,000 employees who work for us in New Jersey, 10,000 of them over in Jersey City, and of those, 5,000 are technology workers. So in the site where I work in Jersey City, there's over 5,000 technologists. We're doing AI, we're doing public cloud, we're doing all digital technology. So there's a lot of talent to be tapped into locally. We're gonna be here present throughout the week. I urge you to reach out, meet with us, talk with us. We're here for you to support you. Our CEO, Jamie Dimon, talks about strong communities and building strong communities. That's great for business, it's good for the bank, but the bank is here to support you beyond that. So you are the future, you are the technology leadership that we're looking for in Newark and New Jersey. So reach out, connect with JP Morgan Chase. We're happy here to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joe, for supporting Newark's growing tech economy and showing up for our ecosystem. And finally, we have Ari Fox, Head of Economic Impact at Audible. Ari leads Audible's efforts to drive inclusive economic development here in Newark, helping attract startups and strengthen the local business community. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Fox.
Hello, Newark Tech Week. As I said, I'm Ari Fox, Head of Economic Impact at Audible. We are so pleased to be sponsoring again this year. Excuse me. I've been here in Newark for 12 or so years, and I've learned two things. Newark equals tech. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt. And there's probably more hugs per square foot in Newark than anywhere else that I've ever been to. And I've traveled the world quite a lot and lived in multiple places. And that's really important because this means that there's a strong community here, and founders need community. And Audible has been really pleased and has the great privilege of being part of this community, both from a anchor tech company in Newark, but then also as the drivers of, or participants of the ecosystem with our business attraction program, which has been growing for the last few years. So we now have almost 30 companies that we've brought through our grant program and our support in Newark, building and growing and launching new products. Some of the founders are here today. Many of them, if not all of them, will be on site tomorrow at our demo day. So if you're not planning on going, please come because it's going to be a great show. And we're this is an important event and an important week for Newark. So we're really grateful to be part of this, really grateful for you to be here. And if I accomplish nothing else other than this, it's that by the end of the week, everyone will be saying that Newark equals tech and calling this place the Net, N-E-T, Newark equals tech. That's my goal for this session. So I'm going to stop talking because you're going to see me up here in a few minutes for a panel. Thanks for having me, and let's go get them.
Thank you, Ari, and thank you to Audible for continuing to invest in Newark's future. Let's give one more round of applause for our sponsors, including United Airlines, NJEDA, JP Morgan Chase, LISCNJ, RWJ Foundation, Audible Invest, Newark, Rutgers University, and the Rutgers iHub Center for making the Tech Summit free and accessible to our entire community, making both the Newark Tech Summit and Newark Tech Week open to everyone. Yes, yes. Now we are going to move into our first conversation of the evening. It is called Code Switch, Non-Traditional Pathways to Tech. This discussion highlights the many ways people break into tech, from community to creativity to courage. Please welcome our moderator, City Medina, founder of Equal Space, and our panelists, Derek Thomas, Vice President of Innovation Economy, Startup Banking at JP Morgan, Ari Fox, Head of Economic Impact at Audible, Larissa Juju Fontaine, founder and CEO of Hue Capital, and Emily Hawkins, founder and CEO of the Black Tech Collective. Together, they explore how unconventional paths and lived experience are driving success in the tech world. Also, everybody, there are some seats if you guys want to fill in. There's empty seats. Don't be afraid. I see a few of you standing. Don't be afraid. There are a lot of chairs available. You can join in. Can everyone please also give us a round of applause for our moderator and panelists?
So y'all weren't done with me yet, but I'm really proud to be in this amazing moment with these panelists. I want to welcome everyone to Code Switch, Non-Traditional Pathways to Tech. And so this conversation really is built around breaking the molds and the different journeys, skill sets, and lived experiences that shape innovation. So let's just define and level set on what non-traditional means, right? It's something unique to each of us, and tonight we're going to explore what that looks like from multiple perspectives. So I'm going to really encourage my amazing panelists share your narratives and real talk your journeys, because that's what I think is going to really help everyone. Question right off the bat. What barriers did you face entering the tech industry, and what helped you break through? So I'd love to start. Yep, we're going to do a round robin.
All right, awesome, no pressure. Once again, everybody, my name is Jolisa Fontaine. Everybody calls me Juju. What's my name?
Juju.
What's my name?
Juju.
All right, awesome. So yeah, I think the biggest barrier for me getting into tech was there are a lot of opportunities in tech. Like, people make you think that the only role that exists in technology is to be a software engineer or maybe some form of a data scientist, but there are a lot of opportunities for different skill sets in that industry. And I would like to believe that I'm somebody who's multifaceted, and I think I can do a lot of different things, but I must choose one. So the biggest barrier for me was saying, okay, listen, I love research. Should I do UX research? My background actually was in healthcare research. I love strategy. I love being the person who is able to create some kind of vision for why something needs to exist in the hands of everyday people. And if I get to be in a role where I have some control over that, maybe I should be a product manager. People who are maybe not doing the strategy, but the actual development of the product, that is the engineer, that is the data scientist, etc. I don't want to be on a laptop doing anything like that whatsoever. So I'm able to completely outrule roles that look like that. So I think for me, the biggest barrier for me at least, outside of the concept of not having a direct network in that space, is just coming to a conclusive decision on what are the traits, what are the skill sets needed for each of these roles, and what's going to fulfill me. Because I'm not the kind of person who's gonna sign up for a job that's very unfulfilling. I know that sometimes we have to do what we have to do, but for me, I really need to do what I wanna do. And that's what makes me feel good, and I was able to land into product management, and I felt like I had actually broken into tech doing my dream job.
That's what I'm talking about, Juju. So, and Juju, besides the call and response, did something that I lapsed on, which was if my amazing panelists could first say where they're repping in their roles, and then answer the question. So clearly I got ahead of myself. I'm hocked up on a lot of caffeine. So Derek, would you mind saying a little bit about where you're coming from in the world of tech and innovation, your role?
Sure. So my name is Derek Thomas. I go by my initials, DT. So everyone can call me DT.
Hey, DT.
A little bit about my background. So I help lead the innovation economy startup banking division at JP Morgan. And what that essentially means is that I focus my energy, my time, and my attention on helping to scale high growth, venture backable startups that are pre-Series A in the sectors of technology, healthcare, internet, as well as commerce. So I help identify them, we bank them with our banking staff, and we help them scale with the platform of JP Morgan in different ways. So that's what I do at the top and end. I think it's also worth knowing that beyond just being a part of the banking stack, I think it's worth knowing that my background is 15 years as an entrepreneur and an investor. So I spent the last 15 years, started my career at Tesla, where I was a part of their pre-product, go-to-market team. I helped start their initial growth strategy. Then I went into private equity, where I helped on the buy side to bring companies public before starting my own venture-backed startup and selling that. So people always ask me, like, why do you go backwards, right? Like, well, why are you in crypto? Why are you at corporate now when that's not where you started? I'll get into that a little later. But I think this goes into the question of non-traditional. The way I define non-traditional is essentially giving yourself, embedding on yourself before the world knows who you are, right? And a lot of that comes down to context. It's not necessarily a competence thing, but it's context. It's about understanding that at the earliest stages, tech started off as a place where you have to understand the language, you have to be in proximity to the right ecosystems and infrastructures, and then you got to go beyond that to actually build something that's meaningful in the market. And you might, and some of that has a lot to do with, not just creative, but also your background, right? So from a context perspective and betting on yourself, sometimes you have to put yourself out there, be a part of the solution, and then solve a problem maybe for one person. And leveraging culture and community and then eventually capital to kind of put yourself forward. I'll go into a little bit more of that later, but the key thing is it's really about context, not necessarily just competence. So the more you learn, the more you can grow from there.
And boy, are we learning at an exponential rate. That's so right. Now, I'm so well aware of your work. Would you like to share with everyone? And if you could just share oh, thank you, Derek. If you could intro yourself and the amazing initiative that you represent, but again, just sharing the barriers that you faced in the tech industry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Hawkins, and I am the founder and the CEO of the Black Tech Collective. We are an organization, a community of around 3,000, primarily based in the DMV area, but growing and scaling every day. Sorry, I'm just going to take one point of privilege. I'm not sure if you all are aware, but it's super cavernous in here, so it's hard to hear each other if there are conversations going. So if you guys don't mind in the back, just bringing the volume down so that we can hear each other and you're able to hear us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for the advocacy.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you.
Really happy to be here with everyone today. So my personal background is in communications. So I've been a publicist for nearly 20 years. I went to a school across the bridge called Columbia University and was based in New York City for quite some time, moving from companies like Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, an entertainment company and nonprofit, to Macy's, which folks think of as retail, and it's also very much an entertainment brand as well when you think about the parade and the Thanksgiving Day parade and the fireworks and all of those different properties. So I think the biggest barrier for me entering into the tech industry was just awareness. Similar to what Juju said, I didn't have the awareness of this is an industry for me because I was a comms person, I didn't have a technical background. But then during the pandemic, I was working for Macy's, and Macy's was a retail company, Amazon was a retail company, and so that was how I was able to make the parlay or the bridge to tech. And what we do through the Black Tech Collective is remind both technical and non-technical talent that this is an industry for you. Every single tech company needs a comms person. Every single tech company needs a marketing person, as well as the technical talent that powers these brands and companies. So that's a lot of kind of our upskilling and information that we provide through our Tech Talk Salon series that happens quarterly. We're bringing in the best and brightest minds in tech that just happen to be Black to talk to our community about different topics. Cybersecurity, AI, runs the gamut.
That explains so much because your messaging is so succinct. When I get to touch base with you online, it's just the messaging is super clear and super call to action. So that makes so much sense. So bringing up, certainly not least, and
Well, maybe the least. We'll see on my response. But and sorry for you guys who can't. This is a very unfortunately placed.
this is a large podium.
And they're blocking my good side. That's okay. You don't have to move it. Anyway, so my biggest barrier to tech was that I knew nothing about tech. But I was lucky enough when I decided, and I'm actually a lawyer by trade, and I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, and I wanted to use my skills for good and not evil. I was taken in by Audible as, at the time, 12 years ago, looking for someone or a bunch of people who could use their kind of legal background to do some creative transactional deal making for our content team. And I've just been super lucky through a combination of just timing with this incredible growth that Audible has had over the last 12 years, and also just my ambition and desire and to be a part of things. Have been able to just live on the frontier of the company since I joined. So whether it be launching, a totally new business line that we've never done before, sometimes failing miserably in our experimentation, or launching new discovery experiences for our customers, really just innovating on behalf of our customers. And then a few years ago, I got the privilege of joining what I do now, and now I get to innovate on behalf of our community here in Newark. And that's been probably the most, important part of what I do. So now my customers are literally the people I can walk out of our building here in Newark just next door and actually say hi to and see the work that's happening in this community. So that was really my tech experience.
Thank you so much, Ari. Ari and I are going to share a mic. Just come through, Rock. So I want to kick it over to Juju really quickly, because the other part of the coin is that the tech sector oftentimes celebrates innovation, but it's so slow to open the door and to create structural change. So Juju, I would love for you to share, what do you think we need to do with those who enter into tech with unconventional talents who are entering the game?
The TLDR, which is like the stereotypical answer, is community. Community genuinely solves a lot of problems. Community solves problems not because it's a buzzword and it sounds very sexy to use the word, but it solves a lot of problems because community is supposed to be a sustainable tactic to ensuring that people don't only come in to a certain pathway, but they stay in that pathway. And I re-emphasize that because a lot of times we spend time glorifying people breaking into tech, but don't forget that some people leave tech too. The same way you have a group of people who are craving and yearning to break into a certain industry, there are a group of people who feel extremely burnt out and unsupported by that same industry, and for that reason, they leave. So I say that to say that it's very important that people are building ecosystems, they're building communities, they're building pipelines that have an intention of doing two things. I think it's very important that for anybody who is building some kind of ecosystem or some kind of community, that there is both an in real life and some kind of online experience, because you genuinely need both. And the reason why you need both is because when somebody comes to an event, and you meet a few people, you're not gonna meet everybody in that room. And a lot of times you probably leave saying, I'm so happy I met Jackie, Jill, and Brandon, but I wish I got to meet the others. And what solves that problem is knowing that that same community you're a part of, you can still go back to an online space and hopefully be able to find out who else is a part of this group, who else is a part of this entity, and what are these people doing? And not only what are they doing by title and company that they work for, but what are they doing in terms of the work that they're actually proud of? So I say that again because if you are building something that is both in real life and it's something that's also online, the goal shouldn't just be to know people at a surface level. You really want to dig deep and find out, what are people working on? What are they proud of? How can you get involved? I know everybody's pretty irritated at this phase by this thing called pick your brain, but a lot of times kind of mutually picking each other's brains is what sparks a lot of collaborative ideas and sets the foundation for a lot of the companies that we honor, celebrate, and yearn to be a part of so badly. So I kind of try to put that in there because sometimes it's okay to allow someone to pick your brain because you might start picking theirs too. I'll also say one last thing. I think it's very important that when people are joining communities and getting involved in these ecosystems, that you also have an intent to create something. And it's not always with the intent to have your own company or your own business, but it's to be able to show that you're constantly doing things to upskill so that you're constantly sustaining your role and your worth and your value in whatever industry you're a part of. In this case, tech.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Gems. Emily, I saw you go into action. Is there anything you wanted to add on how structurally we need to make more room for unconventional talent or pathways in tech?
Yeah, building upon what Juju said, community is paramount, right? That's what we're all about with the Black Tech Collective. I feel like informal and formal mentorship is also really important. It's hard to navigate if you have not been exposed to certain industries and sectors. And the more that you have one-to-one connection with people who have already been making strides in the industry, the easier it is for you to personally navigate. I'd also say that companies, I feel like we're getting here. Companies can do a better job of not requiring certain degrees, as you know, that's historically, you need a CS degree to enter into tech. But we're in a day and age where there are so many different upskilling things that you can, certificates and certifications that you can get that really are transferable. You can walk in the door and with a little bit of coaching, do the job just as well as someone who has been studying it in college for years. So I think normalizing the idea of you don't have to have a very specific path and trajectory to be able to thrive is really where we need to get to.
Tap in, Derek. I can always tell when someone's like, oh, yeah, plus one that.
So what Emily and Juju is saying is really, really important. And to talk about the tactical part of that, even as you start to scale your company, the purpose and the reason why this is so important is because it's about diversity of thought. When you have diversity of thought, real innovation comes from lived experience. It comes from benchmarking. Benchmarking is the act of taking something, think of, for instance, the bank, and then think of the restaurants, how they both, one of these companies started off with the drive-through. The other company, took that process and brought it into their company ecosystem to make automation and that process faster. That same thought process happens in businesses. They're always thinking about how can they optimize for efficiency. Sometimes on a people level, in order to do that, it's about diversity of thought. It's about like what experiences and context. Because the new moat is data, and data comes from people, because people have their own lived experience, and that's the way in which we can get those touch points and then trade on those data points. So I just wanted to share why community is so important for the future of, honestly, humankind at this point.
So I think that's a really great key finding that helps us to the next question that I'd love to ask Ari, because I think it bridges what we're all talking about non-traditional and about ways of, way making. So Ari, Audible's known for bridging creativity and technology. How has your background shaped how you approach economic development and impact through storytelling and innovation? Like, how has that connected for you?
Newark equals tech. No, so it's. I think what it comes down to it from a personal perspective, and I see this, across all the innovation that is out there, is if you can think outside of the box, right? If you're not coming at things from entrenched status quo viewpoints, which is where diversity actually is really important, because you create, new ideas and new perspectives. That's where a lot of this innovation comes from. And then as it relates to a company and their innovation, it's really thinking, again, outside of themselves, right? How do they effectively invent? And we talk about this a lot at the company. We invent before they ask, right? How do you think about things before someone tells you and it smacks you in the face? Like, this is the next thing you need to do. And that's where a lot of that disruption comes from, as opposed to that kind of iterative work.
I think that's a key finding, is like, what is the structure to how you approach things? And I think this really brings me over to asking Emily a question around, you've built an entire ecosystem around connection and advocacy, and that took an amount of structure and amount of intention. So my question that I wanted to ask is, what gaps in the industry pushed you to create the Black Tech Collective? I was gonna have to pass the mic.
So the Black Tech Collective was truly born out of a personal desire to feel connected in a sense of belonging. We will be 3 years old in December. And I was in a new area working for a big tech company, and I literally did not see folks that looked like me. And so I very organically started to get folks together on a grassroots level. And then the company's ERG, Amazon at the time, noticed what I was doing and was like, hey, can you come on and help us, what we're doing here? And so then I went on to be the networking director of the ERG. And then I said, this can be something bigger than just what's happening here at Amazon. We had a great movement going. But then I started to think, what about, there's this big opportunity to go to the Salesforce Black ERG and bring them into the fold, and go to Microsoft's BAM ERG and bring them into the fold. And so that was kind of the ladder and the stair step of what I call BBB, building black bonds, because we know that our network is our net worth. And you are only going to be propelled forward by the people who are to your left and your right. And so from there, I went on to be a VP, but then a VP within the ERG, and I recognized I probably won't be at this company forever, but this is an area of passion for me, and I want to be able to be company agnostic. So not just in service of this one particular company, but how can I help more people? And so that is where the need and the desire for building the organization came from.
It's such a powerful route and North Star as you operate. I have to say that as a member of engaging what you've built, it's also uplifting, and that's such a dual lift for you, and you just dope. I think all my panelists are dope. But I just wanted to kick it over to Derek, because I think there's a cross-section between what you've built and what you've been navigating, which is you work in startup banking and innovation at one of the world's largest financial institutions. And how do you help founders who don't fit the traditional mold access capital and trust? Because they go hand in hand, right? And so I'm really interested in how you've been navigating that from the inside.
That's a great question. There's a few things. The number one thing is, obviously at one of the number one company in the world, as it relates to investments, banking, and now our goal is to be number one in startup banking. What I'm noticing is I get pitched every single day, different companies, concepts, ideas, products and services. I think because of who I am and the way in which I'm not afraid to be loud, and the way in which I'm not allowed to walk in the door without a tie and show up as myself, it allows for others to come to me and show up as themselves as well. And as a result, I don't think I ever have an issue with someone feeling comfortable, because trust doesn't start at the brand level at JP Morgan. It starts at the micro brand at Derek Thomas. So I'm Derek Thomas Inc. first. And I show up as Derek Thomas. And then I'm backed by JP Morgan. And the beauty of that is they support me in my role to show up for those founders. So when I'm speaking to different founders, anyone can come up to me. If your company is at inception stage, let's have a conversation. If you're growing a Series A company, you raise 10 million, let's have a conversation. It's really important to remove all the barriers and because starting a company is so difficult already as it is. The worst thing they can do is have some type of proxy that's blocking them from feeling like they can't have a conversation. So that's the first layer. The second layer is, if I can't support them directly through the criteria that fits under the JP Morgan startup banking line, what's beautiful about JP Morgan is we have a banking line for almost every type of business. And I'll make sure I'm the API to reroute them to the right space, and then still support them from thereafter. So.
And it is on. I have to testify. I've met so many at the JP Morgan on your team that all really are willing to talk, and they are in this room, just letting all of my founders know. The resources and the panelists here are here ready to talk with you. So I've talked at every level of equal space with JP Morgan, and you guys have always been supportive at every stage of our startup, when we were scrappy in a pop-up all the way to 2 campuses. So shout out that they are the deed, not just the word. So please engage the team. The Chase side is also here, and they're an amazing partner, and they are in the room. I always shout out the resources that are in the room. I think it's important. But talking non-traditional, I gotta bring it to my sister Juju really quickly, because as I look at your journey, you crowdfunded your way to building an AI-powered network. And what lessons did you learn about community, trust, and ownership through how, I'm trying to connect it the right way, that traditional VC missed, Juju? Like, so you self-powered, and what did they miss in the VC in that place of trust and ownership for you?
Forgive me, but the feedback is killing me. So I can't hear the last few words.
Oh, I got you. I'll do it again, and I get you. Rock's on it. Our audio is on it. So you crowdfunded your way to building an AI-powered network. What lessons did you learn about community trust and ownership that traditional VC paths miss?
Mic check. Okay, cool. What I didn't get to mention is I'm the founder and CEO of an AI professional social network. We are building an alternative to LinkedIn, where on our platform, people of various industries are being connected through one-to-one and group matching. The goal is to remove intimidation out of the experience of networking. You no longer have to worry about just shooting your shot. Our AI engine will shoot the shot for you. That's the first part. Now, to your point about the crowdfunding, in reality, most people who are starting a business are probably not in proximity to people who have money to immediately invest in them and immediately throw at them. When I say money, I'm talking about thousands and millions of dollars, right? Usually you need to build something, some kind of fundamental product. In tech, we call that an MVP. We call it a minimal viable product. And when you build that foundational tool and you get some version of traction, one that is valuable metrics, then people with a surplus of funds are going to find you credible to invest in. The reality is, yes, while I was working as a product manager and I was indeed making some money, I realized that my job was not a 9 to 5. It felt more like an 8 to 7. So I realized that if I want to take the leap in transforming a brand that just focused on throwing networking events and now turn it into a tech company, I need time to learn. I need time to study. AI was going crazy in 2022, 2023. If I'm going to build something, I need to do it right. So I had to quit. So I don't have the safety net financially to just throw into an MVP of my product. Now I need to look to my left, my front, my right, and my back and say, anybody got $25? So I made a decision to use a tool called I Fund Women. And I'm saying this very specifically because I want this to feel like a 2-second master class. I used a tool called I Fund Women. It is a crowdfunding campaign. And I use that tool specifically because you are not limited to having to raise a certain amount of money in a time frame where if you don't raise that amount, you lose the entire thing. And most crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and etc., if you do not raise that money by blank number of days, you will have nothing. And one thing I realized about my particular community, I love them. I built an email listserv of 10,000 people. People support me, but they heavily support me last minute. Meaning that when I do events, I'm talking 86% of our ticket sales to our events come in 2 weeks prior to an event when we're marketing for a month. So I cannot deal with that anxiety through a Kickstarter, okay? But I reached out to people and I DM'd almost every single person that follows me on Instagram. I texted everybody in my phone and I said, hey, listen, I've been doing this. I've been building community for years. Who else but me to build something that can rival a beast like LinkedIn one day, when even before Hugh Capital started in 2023, I had a prior startup called Millennivision, and I was throwing networking events since 2018, and I was student government president of my college and on several clubs throwing events since 2014. I am the most consistent person you'll ever meet in your life when it comes to building community. So if you can give me 25, 50, 100, 200, whatever you have to give, I will gladly accept it. And once again, they gave it to me. I raised $26,000. And out of that $26,000, it may not sound like much, but it's a lot for me just DMing a bunch of people with very limited strategy at the time because it was urgent, it was pressing. But in reaching out to so many people, one thing you'll forget is you think people forget about you and your impact. They don't. What ends up happening is sometimes you raise your hand and say, hey, I need help, and someone, the right person, will know to help you. I actually reached out to someone who used to be a former chancellor of the SUNY system. I used to go to a SUNY school, SUNY Albany, and she was like, I see what you're building, like, I believe in you, and she even started speaking about what the future of my product can be, and that's already in my notes. I'm like, oh, we're aligned. And she actually said, hey, listen, she wrote $5,000 on a check. She said, I'm going to give this check to you in your hand. Do not cash it until you raise $5,000 in a week. Best believe I raised $5,000 in a week because I want that 5K. So it's nice to know that people support you, but they'll challenge you in the process. And those are the things that help you get 26K non-equity. This is people pre-ordering access to your platform, or to an extent, they're just donating to what you have going on.
Come on now to the raise. Come on now. And there's an amazing through line that I'd love to bring to Emily, because Emily, you've worked with like giants like Google and Amazon, and you're hearing Juju's story where we build from nothing, from the mud up. How do you reconcile that part, like the corporate systems with grassroots change? Like, how do you navigate that bridge?
Yeah, I've been in big tech for about 5 years, and I consider myself a pragmatist. And so for me, it's accepting the fact that corporate America has a very specific set of values, and they need to deliver shareholder value. They need to create innovative products. Those values may not, and priorities, may not always align with what my personal priorities are, right? And so for me, it's more about taking the personal onus to make the change you want to see, right? So I don't think that we should depend on big corporations who may have a different set of priorities to drive forward the change. What I believe in is personally investing in community and having people who are part of the Black Tech Collective, their seeds. So I may not personally be able to change a whole corporation, but the collective, we take the information that we learn and we bring it back to our companies, and that is incremental change that's able to happen over time. So that's the way I feel is the most effective way to see change happen.
And I think you're so right about it. Like, there are different value sets when we enter rooms, and we have to broker between the two to effectively move towards change. And I used to think that was the status quo in my own journey of like engaging in sponsorship and investment. And let me tell you, I had a whole year full of failed like introductions, and I thought this is the way I did the pitch and this is the way I gain corporate support. And then, I've had the pleasure of working alongside Audible and Ari and his team, who would probably be at the top of the scale when you're talking about non-traditional tactics. And this question, I think, is for you, Ari, on how are companies like Audible using their platforms to help build the tech ecosystem in Newark to grow inclusively? Because I've witnessed it, and I'd love for everyone to see that, that work can be done from the corporate vantage point. And Derek, I'm coming for you right after, because JP Morgan also does that work. So how's that been on the Audible side?
A lot of it, I think, comes down to intentionality, right? So you have to have sort of the end goal in mind, and then know, okay, here are the steps to take to get to what you're trying to accomplish. So, for Audible, there's sort of two things that drive that, right? One is the belief that our founder, Don Katz, sort of instilled in the company, which is around directly investing in the community and the work that we're doing, rather than just like hand over a check in a traditional philanthropic manner for someone else to do the work. And so what that does, and actually he talked about this recently on a podcast. Yes, I'm an Audible nerd, apologies, but I think it's helpful to understand, which is that there's all these innovative companies historically that have built and disrupted and created new technologies and new industries and new ways of doing things when it comes to the product and services that they sell. But when it comes to solving societal issues or helping bring others along, these companies kind of just be like, I don't know what I'm doing here, and they hand over that work to someone else. But rather than look inwards and say, hey, we're actually innovative disruptors, maybe we tackle this problem ourselves and there'll be an amazing outcome, rather than, again, allowing someone else to do it in the traditional nonprofit philanthropy world. And so we've had that sort of thesis throughout our entire, company history, particularly our time in Newark, that when we moved here, again, intentionally to be part of the revitalization of this city. And so I think that's really kind of helped us lead with intentionality, because we know what we're trying to accomplish, and we're driving that work to do it ourselves. And the second thing is again just actually being inclusive, and intentionally inclusive, right? So when we created, for example, our business attraction program, we set out with the mission that the significant majority and focus of this program will be funding founders of color and female founders. And so when we bring these companies here to Newark, we're matching the existing ecosystem and helping, chip away at the historic barriers of access. And again, you can't do that work without knowing from the beginning that the program you're designing and the things you're trying to do, fit what you're trying to do inclusively. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely was a multi-tiered approach there. And yes to the clapping. I love it. Derek, would you like to cue in on that?
Yeah, sure. From our angle, and I'll speak from my point of view versus the JP Morgan point of view, so you can understand where I'm coming from and why my experience is leading towards the purpose behind the mission. So the mission at JP Morgan in my department is all about banking the innovation economy, right? We want to find that early stage company that eventually becomes the Anthropics of the world, the OpenAIs of the world, the Metas of the world, right? And we're finding them at the earliest stages. And it's likely that someone is building someone in the crowd right now, and that's who I want to identify. So I'm constantly here, but I said I want to identify. So what JP Morgan is doing is, in order to identify these type of companies, they did one thing that I find to be really fascinating. Instead of the traditional banking route of like folks that have finance backgrounds, they went after pedigree and they said, you know what, we're gonna go help people bank their reflection, like myself. So I'm a former founder. I raised over $10 million. I've sold 2 companies, exited the last one. I went that route of being a founder at a high growth startup, and then I went into the private equity sector. So I have lived experience doing exactly what I'm about to go share or communicate to another founder what to do. The second is we have ecosystem partners, right? Folks that spent their life and like their life's work supporting, the venture ecosystem, whether they were investing in early stage companies and they saw the gaps, et cetera, and they kind of like decided to come on board. So, and then more importantly, outside of just getting us together, so what that did is that created empathy. So now we have clear context and empathy and lived experience to support new early stage founders. The next stage is when you have empathy, you have white glove service, which is we are a huge enterprise. But when we're supporting you, if we give you guys our cell phone numbers, we make you feel, or we make this organization feel really small. So you don't feel like you have to communicate to the entire JP Morgan. That sounds overwhelming. Instead, you can operate with that one-to-one or one-to-few community members, bankers that's within our ecosystem. And that allows you to open up, and then they train us to ensure that we understand not only just our role, but the role of many lines of business. And we're actually incentivized. And when I say incentivized, I mean like, it's not just a high five, like it's really important for us to work together across different lines of business. Like I'm working with the private bank, understanding that when this company is raising and they get to the Series A level and they start to sell in secondaries and start become more liquid, they're starting to think about, well, what do I do with the wealth that I just created for myself? Then I'm bringing in a private banker to help them with their personal wealth while I support their commercial wealth. So there's so many layers that it's almost called the JP Morgan hug. So like we support them in that capacity, make them feel comfortable. And the goal is, as we continue to scale their company, essentially you can't outgrow us. We can support you at the inception point and IPO and beyond. So that's where the trust, the empathy, the lived experience, those things come in hand.
But it does, it helps, that's what I think you and Ari have both said. As large as the institutions are, a one-on-one approach and a connected approach really help make for more impact. And so this is a question for the whole panel actually, is what role has mentorship or community played in your own journeys of navigating a non-traditional pathway? Because I think for the everyone attending, I want them to think through what mentorship could look like in real terms. I think sometimes mentorship, everyone thinks it's a one-on-one meeting and someone has to invest and dedicate all this time, but we've all had mentors in our head, or we've had unexpected community show up on our journeys. I'd love for you guys to share a bit about that.
Yeah, I'll start. Two quick things. There's assigned mentorship. It is mentorship that you seek out independently. I say assigned because on my journey into product management, for context, I didn't go to undergrad to become a technologist. I thought I was going to be an OBGYN. I thought I was going to deliver babies, take care of women, I'll be a doctor. That was the vision, that was the plan. After I finished undergrad, I realized I don't want to do that anymore, just given that context. So in breaking into product management, I partook in a program called Inclusive Product Management Accelerator, and it was associated with the University at Washington, where it's not like a program where you have to do a capstone or things like that to learn how to be a product person. What they do is they accept people who they can tell already have the skills of a product manager. They are just teaching you how to better communicate those skills and put them together in a way where someone will actually hire you. And through that program, I received a mentor, Dante Delgado, forever love that guy. He was my assigned mentor, and he really genuinely was able to hear what I'm capable of, what I accomplished before this program, and ultimately why I should have all faith in myself to know, like, yeah, I'm gonna get a job. Like, I'm not the kind of person who should struggle for a role like this. And hearing somebody tell you that when you're coming from something that's not just that, it really does empower you and makes you feel like, oh, wow, I can really do this. So he gave me that, and he was an assigned mentor through that program. The other part that I mentioned, which is like your non-assigned mentor, someone you're out there seeking out yourself, I always say, I don't feel like I just have like a main mentor for something, because I'm a very like jolly person. I'm always outside meeting a bunch of people, and I talk a lot. So I'm gonna ask questions. I wanna know about you, your life, your kids, I wanna know, okay? And because I kind of sometimes am a bit invasive in that way, it does help me kind of create a lot stronger relationships a lot sooner than maybe others would. And having a lot of people around me who are very accomplished kind of be like this like almost mentor, and not just in tech, in any industry, they're just constantly investing into me. What are the skills that I need to have to future-proof myself, whether I'm a product leader or an entrepreneur? And if you're just constantly out there meeting new people, you will find mentorship in so many different folks that you're not just out there seeking just one type. A lot of people have a lot to offer you, no matter what industry and background they're in.
I would say find more rooms like this. When you're talking about mentorship, it comes down to folks that are coming together because of aligned incentives, aligned values. You guys are here for a reason. You guys are here to learn, build, and invest in one another. Other rooms. For myself, and not to, one thing that we're doing is I'm hosting dinners every month. Bringing together founders, builders, ecosystem partners to essentially allow for folks to, again, learn, build, and invest in one another. Share insights, exchange perspectives, providing insight so that you guys can grow and learn, and more importantly, reach a successful outcome. And sometimes that outcome is not necessary, and this is what I learned about mentorship. I went through an incubator, Science Ventures, and my cohort was Liquid Death, Pray.com, Carvana, a couple other startups. And one thing I learned in that experience is that, we all come from different backgrounds. we approach marketing and go-to-market very differently culturally, whether it's a corporate culture, whether it's someone that's used to just hustling, we call them the hustler, some people that just understand product and data, they all can dwell and be inclusive. And it's about finding spaces that's exclusively inclusive, right? So, for myself, when I think about the way in which I would, spend time and make sure that I'm getting the right mentorship, I'm always just looking for the value set. I'm looking for someone that's above me. I'm looking for someone that's right behind me and I can pull up. And then more importantly, I'm looking for someone that's, running the same run as I am. So there's folks like myself and others up here that curate those rooms. Feel free to touch base with us right out there. I do something called a seat at the table, and I'm happy to invite you guys to a seat at the table to kind of like support your growth and development. So
That is a beautiful offer, Derek. Thank you so much.
So for me, I feel like mentorship has come in two different ways. More formally with folks that have more tenure and they are able to, help me see around blind spots and around corners and offer different varied perspective on things that are different challenges that I may be gnawing on at the moment. And then I think what has been super helpful is kind of like peer-to-peer mentorship, and not necessarily even the mentorship label, but how are you able to open doors for someone with the platform and or access that you currently have? Like for an example, Jared Albritton right here in the front row. This summer, he is a content creator and a leading tech expert, and he was speaking on a panel, moderating a panel this summer on Martha's Vineyard. We have a connection. He opened the door so that the Black Tech Collective could be part of that. And I think it's like exactly that I don't necessarily, you may not classify it as mentorship, but it's how can you help open doors for other people with the level of access and the platform that you currently have. So that's always my challenge. We may not be the CEOs of big, large companies at this moment, but with the personal agency that you do have, how are you responsibly using that and sharing it with others?
That is so impactful, and shout out to you. Thank you for opening doors for us. We appreciate you.
So mentorship is a really actually important part of community and a part of the program that Audible has here in Newark, our business attraction program. And as the founders in this program know, I like to give my opinion a lot. And I realized, I was like, man, I think I'm becoming my parents in that they don't want to hear it, right? But I feel like it's important to give. And so what I think, there's a couple things. One, if you're a founder, be open, right, to advice, because sometimes you just need to hear different perspectives, but then also be discerning, because not everyone is going to be right, or you're going to start getting inputs from so many different directions, you're not going to know where to go. And at the end of the day, as a founder, you need to have that conviction that you're right, and then just sort of modify and calibrate based on feedback, whether it be from your customers or from your investors or just from your friends in the community. And then, what was also interesting is about mentorship. I think the most successful is those that have mutual mentorship, right? So the person you think you're mentoring is actually also mentoring you. And one of the things we're really proud of in our program is every one of our sort of direct reports, our C-suite to the CEO, including our CEO, has taken on a mentee from the program. So a founder one-on-one, they meet on a either monthly or quarterly basis to share, tried and true wisdom. But when I first launched that program, I thought, oh, this is going to be a one-way transaction. But in fact, the C-suite executives are like, actually, we're learning stuff from these founders, even though they're only new founders. But we're learning about innovation, different ways of thinking, and that's really important, I think, is about like be open to learning as a mentor, but then also be discerning as a mentee.
I think that's really important to share, because the other part of mentorship and community is being open to the feedback of the relationship. the learning of depersonalizing feedback, the ability to create boundaries around what feedback is acceptable and what crosses over. I think those are all very big parts of the relationship. And so crowd, family, we have a really unique opportunity here. And so we're going to open it up for a Q&A. I think the team is going to be there with a mic or steal mine. And so we're going to run into the crowd. Does anyone have questions for this very distinguished panel? Just raise your hand right there to the right, my love.
Hello, thank you for the chat. Great advice there, guys. I was wondering, based on the mentorship question that you just asked, I guess everyone feels like an expert until you sort of like anyone can hit themselves as an expert. What are some of the red flags that you should watch out for when it comes to mentorship and someone saying that they've got a lot of expertise, but actually they don't and they can't actually help you in your business?
So just repeating the question, in mentorship, and I want to make sure I get this right, in mentorship, what are the red flags to watch out for in mentorship when someone is saying they're the subject matter expert in something, but it may not be true to life? Does that feel right? Look at me, active listening, y'all. Anybody?
I'll start here. In my previous startup, we had this rule that is a part of our principles where you have to state whether or not what you're about to say is a fact, a firmly held belief, or an opinion. And they always start the conversation with those three. And then we have this rule that also says, if you don't have lived experience, those with lived experience, that a context lives a little truer. So if obviously that's not in a company setting, if you're just at an event or you're at a dinner and someone is giving you advice about something, you can simply just ask them, is this a fact? Is this a firmly held belief that you have? Or is this an opinion? Do you have lived experience on this? And I think that context can actually drive more trust, a deeper bond, and then they can correct themselves and or say, hey, yeah, this is an opinion I have, and this is why I think it should be done. And I think those little social cues can create a little bit more of a connection that can drive a little bit more authentic results for you.
I hope that answers your question. Who else would have a question for our amazing panel?
over here.
Please. We have someone right in the front. I got you, sis. I see you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I am a non-technical professional. I am part of the 318K that have been impacted. If you guys are familiar with that number, 318,000 Black women who have been impacted in some sort of fashion based on all of the changes in our society today. I've been attempting to break into tech, so this panel has been really insightful. Is there one or two certifications do you think a non-technical professional should have? It's being hard to get through like the ATS resume and all of that stuff to show our non-traditional skills that are transferable. I'm an experiential marketer. I've been in production for about 15 years, brand partnerships in 15 years. And let me tell you, just to get past the process is really hard. So are there any certifications do you think that we should consider taking?
I'll go first because mine's going to be really brief. Forgive me in advance for saying this, but unless you're breaking into cybersecurity or something, I'm very anti getting certifications. I feel like a lot of roles that we want, we can honestly just upskill or network our way into. I think that when people think of networking, we think it's you're gonna meet one person and that person's gonna change your life. And it's a numbers game like anything else. It's like dating. You're gonna meet a few people before you find the one. And the same thing applies to your next big opportunity. I also advise people to do little activities with AI. AI, whether it's Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT. Look at that report that came out, I think it was through Microsoft, on like what roles are gonna thrive or not survive AI. Use your resume, upload it, compare it, and let it tell you, if I wanna stay in tech or break into tech, here's my background, here's this report on what's gonna die or thrive in AI. Please recommend some roles to me that I should be applying for. I would also look at like a lot of startups that are receiving a lot of funding. Everybody's trying to work at big tech, Google, Meta, et cetera, but there's a lot of startups who are looking for people with our skill sets, and they have the money to give. But once again, if you don't have those existing relationships, you're gonna have to DM a good amount of people on LinkedIn that you've never met or would have never been in proximity to, just to get them to see who you are. My opportunity breaking into tech was by literally DMing a bunch of people who are product leaders in healthcare that would never have known me if I never wrote them, and a referral is what got me my role. But once again, I had to write a substantial number of people. So long story short, unless you're breaking into cybersecurity or something that's extremely skill-based and requires a certificate, I feel like people are wasting their time trying to do those when you should just be upskilling, learning how to talk about what you can do, what you can build, because a lot of times we're not getting the job because we can't properly communicate what we're so good at, what we've already achieved. If you can master the narrative on your strengths and your wins and what you've done, people will need you because you basically told them they're not going to win without you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Coral. When it comes to DEI and your resume and applying to jobs, my question, or I've always been curious if now that DEI policies are not so enforced as they was in the past, when it comes to the demographic section where we put our race and gender, do you know if it's to your benefit or detriment to still include it, to do research on the company if they are still participating in DEI, and if you opt out on revealing your demographics, if that is to your detriment, or if it depends on the companies that you are applying to?
So just making sure I wrap it, I think this is a conversation on the landscape we're all entering into with DEI and how and when to engage. Is it by the institution? Is there a best practice moving forward? If any of my corporate sector brothers would like to answer that as we have a shifting away from those three letters.
This is not a fact. I'm not an expert. This is just experience. You know, as I look at, I've seen a lot of resumes over my time, both in terms of referrals and for jobs for me. I honestly have never even seen someone at certain, for most roles, put demographics, right? You have your name, your location. So hopefully you're applying for roles in particular companies that wouldn't even ask that question specifically. But at the end of the day, it's about, you know, just be authentic. And hopefully, and this isn't not always the case, but hopefully the shifting of our society in this terrible way will not prevent you from showcasing the expertise and the skills and the personality that you have if you're the right fit for the job. That's not to say that you're going to be easy to get through the noise, because every role has so many applications. That's a big challenge. But hopefully if you get past that point, you know, your true self can come through for the right place, for the right role to match your expertise.
And then real quick, two things. Before we wrap up the Q&As, we need to answer that guy with the notebook first, because his hand has been up for like forever before we wrap up. But to answer the question, I don't work for a company but my own right now, so I can give my actual genuine answer 100% right now. If I was operating in the DEI space, I probably wouldn't look for a job title that has DEI in it. I would just look for a role that puts me in proximity to doing the same kind of work that industry allowed me to do, right? A lot of being in DEI is creating pipelines and partnerships that allow like diverse groups of people to enter the workforce or to get business opportunities with these prominent institutions. And a lot of those roles look like sales, partnerships, and marketing, and et cetera. So I would honestly look for a role that allows me to do that work and still be a connector without it meaning that I'm operating in the program of DEI in itself. That's just my answer there.
That's actually really great tactical advice. Yes, my king.
Peace and balance, mitaku yeo yasin. That means we are all relations in my culture. I'm in the grief world. I'm a grief doula. And a lot of people think grief has to deal with death of a person. Sometimes grief comes in the form of not getting that investor or losing a mentor. What are some of your suggestions and tips for assisting these new entrepreneurs and founders on how to overcome grief?
I need y'all's answer on that one. That is a great question. So the question, just to restate, was around, my brother works with people who are experiencing grief, and if it's in that category, grief can be defined in so many different ways, not just as the loss of a person. How do you help, or what are some of your tactics in dealing with grief when the investment doesn't come through, the big deal doesn't happen, where we oftentimes are kind of conditioned as people of color to be like, if this shot don't happen, it all falls apart. What are some of the ways that you guys cope with that grief?
Okay. 232. That's the number of investors I pitched. 22. That's the amount of investors I got money from that funded my company. Meetings. 1,062. I have the tally mark still in my old apartment. Law of numbers. The idea of building a startup sometimes comes down to resilience, persistence, and understanding that as you go from no to no to no, you're getting closer to a yes, a yes, a yes. It's all data points. When you internalize it, talking about grief, which I did in the first hundreds, I took it personal, but I saw that you have a son on your chest. I have two. I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And when I was building my company, and I was fundraising, it was 2020. And I'll never forget that moment where I was pitching a startup. I was pitching a tier 1 investor, and I had the door closed, and my 6-year-old at the time, I just saw water coming from into my room from another room. And I'm like, I can't get up from this call. Like, I gotta finish this call. And immediately when the call was over, I opened the door, and like he just, he flooded the bathroom. And I just remember those moments. And when you talk about grief, that investor didn't invest. A lot of investors did not invest. But it came down to every time I had a meeting, that was a step closer for me to understand the language. It wasn't really about my competence. It was about what I was saying, how I was saying it, to a point where one of the investors told me, he said, you got to learn you got to speak to me, because I was talking about blockchain technology. I was building a platform to help launch, manage, and scale communities using blockchain infrastructure, reimagining loyalty programs. And I went deep because I understood the subject. But he said, speak to me as if you're speaking to a 6-year-old, and that's when it hit. I was like, oh, I'm going too deep. Let me communicate effectively. Let me understand the language. Let me understand the language of money, the language of velocity, and understanding what makes things scale. Because at the end of the day, funding my company is not the end. That's not the celebration. I know we celebrate it a lot, but that's when the game starts, right? So the context of grief came down to removing myself from the action and not feeling like I am not my product. I am DT. The product is the product, and my job is to build and scale something that works. 22 iterations later, I got it right. And I only got it right because of persistence, because of purpose, right? The little one right on your chest. Because of identifying that, like, every time I got to know, I got stronger. I got smarter. I got wiser. And through that, eventually people started to see me the same way I saw myself, which is competent, understanding the language, know what I'm talking about. Also proving the market. Like I didn't stop, I didn't waver. I kept doing the work. So by continuing to see you do the work and continues to putting yourself out there, grief becomes a function of knowing that you're doing something or not doing something you know you should. But if you're persistent, you're active and you're moving forward with clarity or gaining clarity through the process, it's really hard for grief to hold, because at the end of the day, when you think about building something, breathing life into something, it doesn't come down to the idea of letting it die. So, from that perspective, and that I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's also getting personal because I recognize that moment, and I knew how important it was for me to make it work. So I made it work.
You sure did, Derek. That's really beautiful, actually. And I think we can act like my takeaway is grief is a function of the process. Is like that. I love that, like saying that you did. We have space for one last question, and then I'm gonna close us off strong.
My name is Imad. I have a very simple question. What's the difference between the VC-backed funding in startups and the banks funding, like JP Morgan Chase in the startup?
So it's the difference between a VC backing and a bank backing a startup.
So to clarify from my perspective, we identify bank and help companies scale. VCs help identify and back and help companies scale. So from a banking perspective, the first law order for us is I want to be your core operating account, like where you pay your vendors, where you pay your, like we want to hold those deposits once you get to the investment. So just to create clarity around that, then we can help you scale and get in touch with, potential investors through our events and experiences. But that's the first layer. The second layer, we do have, and banks do have growth funds, growth equity funds. And in that context, usually similar to an investor on a VC, they're looking for companies that can help return the fund. But that's one aspect of it. The other part of it is they may be looking into investing in companies that can potentially advance and accelerate their core operations internally. So that might be the layer. And so banks usually, they look into fintech world, they're looking at initiatives that help support their overall operations. VCs, they may have a different investment thesis that focus more generalist, some are backed, and that decision is based on the GP's experience, what their LPs want to invest in, which are LPs stands, those are essentially another word for the investors that's giving their money to the fund so that they can invest it. So one is more institutional thesis, the other is more individual thesis.
That's a really great one, right? Come on now, knowledge. So I'm gonna end it with asking it's a lightning round, one question, and I'm gonna frame it for y'all to go across. You all hold and sit in positions of influence, and how are you using tech to make it more inclusive for the next generation? And so if you could just answer, I am doing, in one sentence, just to bring it home. So you all have influence. How are you using tech to make this more inclusive for the next generation? No, one sentence, not one word.
Okay, one sentence. I'm gonna be out straight up. I am using AI in a humanistic way to facilitate meaningful relationships and ones that will actually last and are not surface level.
Come on, Juju.
Let me make sure I'm clear.
No problem. How are you using tech to make things more inclusive for the next generation?
I am using tech to make things more inclusive for the next generation by first making tech or leveraging tech to make the world our playground.
I'm here for that, Derek. Emily.
All right, I'm using tech to make the world inclusive for the next generation by having tech as a focus point for the Black Tech Collective and our community, and building pipelines and bonds that will help us have an industry that is more reflective of the world that it serves.
Yes.
I am using tech founders that are building in Newark to create solutions that will create the inclusivity that I hope to achieve through our programs, whether it be creating pathways to homeownership or transparency for funding and venture. All of these things is going to do a lot bigger and more scalable than I could ever do. So that's how I'm scaling.
Come on, RM. And as your proud moderator, I am using tech to build space for us like this one and the digital world so that we can get ahead and wealth build and create an equitable future for us all. And it all starts with you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for our tech panelists. I'm going to bring our amazing host back up. Thank you all so much. We still got a lineup for y'all. I'm going to give it to Dante.
So my name is Ash. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SAM, and our company places scalable agile managers or fractional experts anywhere from 5 hours a week to 40 hours a week at startup companies in 5 days. And what our AI does is it vets, it places, it makes sure that it understands what the job description is so that you get the talent that you need and you get that talent as fast as 5 days. One of the reasons that we're here today is to gain a lot of exposure to the Newark and New Jersey tech community, as well as I'll be speaking a little bit later today and talking about ethics in AI and how we can avoid biases and how we can utilize AI to our advantage and just ensure that we're giving fair process while there's limited safeguards as it pertains to AI today.
What's up, Newark Tech Week? This is Benedict Hadley, founder, filmmaker, and polymath from the Hadley Broadcasting Company. I'm here today to speak about the Civic Jetpack and our film Supreme Messages from an Unknown Source that we shot in Newark. We're out here to spread the word about the first tokenized billboard in Newark, New Jersey. We shot Supreme Messages over a course of almost 10 years in Newark, and it's about how the creator sent my wife and myself to Newark, New Jersey to plant the seeds for a 1,000-year sustainable renaissance. And with that film, we are addressing the Sustainable Development Goal #1, which is no poverty. And with the tokenization of this billboard, we're looking to spread the word about tech, about equity, and how storytelling can be used to address endemic problems. And this is the perfect place for it, and we're so happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Henry Dafrede, and I am the founder of Pick and Care, which is an app developed to reduce the cost of care. The app is a platform that connects parents with caregivers within their communities and also families who have seniors living with them that are looking for caregivers as well. So this app is built to ensure that you can find care within your community. And the aim behind this is to reduce the cost of care. So if your caregiver is living within your community, you don't have to be worried about the trust element. Also, the cost imperative around that is reduced. So Pick and Care is a platform that connects parents looking for care within their community and seniors looking for care. What we want to do is to address the exorbitant cost of care by building that platform that allows for community care connection. Thank you very much.